to actually the first episode of voidCAST. So another original name, totally new format, which pretty much the same. I really don't know how to start it because I haven't been doing it in a while. Also, I have already said that I'm not going to be making this podcast, but I changed my mind, okay? So we are here. So now I will be repeating so many times, trying not to stop talking, because usually with this I'm not, doing cuts or anything. Ideally would be if I had already, intro and some background music, but I guess I will have to edit this, and it leads us to the first subject, which I wanted to talk a little. So way before, when I was recording, other stuff on this channel, some gaming content, the previous podcast and whatever. Except maybe quite a few first videos, which I have been editing with OpenShot, which is very basic video editor. But I guess maybe now I would actually know how to use it, but anyway, except that short moment, I was using Adobe Premiere, and I'm not really sure if I really have, took advantage of Adobe Premiere back then. I know I also tried Blender for a little moment, but it ended like, I tried to use it and I had no freaking idea how to use it, and I just didn't use it, right? So I've got Adobe Premiere, of course I've got subscription for it, and it was, I guess, a yearly subscription. Yeah. And I'm not really sure if I really have been recording for a year straight. I guess not. But when I decided, after a few months of not recording anything, that maybe I would not want to have this Adobe subscription anymore, but turns out if I already started yearly plan, then canceling it before the end would actually cost a little, or maybe even a little more than a little. So I was kind of stuck with it for a few months at least. And maybe if you sometimes seen my Twitter, which is probably not, and I'm not really sure if I actually have tweeted on my current account about this, but I'm not a big fan of Adobe for multiple reasons. I was very happy that I wasn't using it anymore. And when I came to Linux, so I of course started using everyone's default video editor, which is Kdenlive. I guess the most people are using Kdenlive. Some people are using DaVinci Resolve, which I also have tested for a moment back then on Windows, and I'm not really sure if I haven't edited one video with it, but at some point it just started like crashing. I mean, running really slow, and I got angry. I just came back to Adobe. But here I started with Kdenlive, which is fine, but I guess everyone is saying it, and it's not that my computer is not powerful enough. I have used Adobe Premiere with the same computer and it worked fine. But Kdenlive, I mean, it wasn't really like slowing down or something, but the playback was always kind of off, especially sound. And I was thinking, I'm not even sure if I was really thinking about switching to something. I guess I was thinking about maybe trying DaVinci Resolve again, but then I thought, and I guess I maybe heard on some podcast about it, that someone was trying Blender. I guess it was Linuxcast, and I guess it was on other podcast. Anyway, that led me to try Blender again, and guess what? Like last few videos I have edited in Blender, and it is really not that hard, but it has some quirks which might be not really intuitive. But actually, for a little moment I also tried Blender with some animations, but I guess nothing really came out of it. But at least I've kind of learned some little things in Blender, which most of it I already forgotten, but I guess it kind of helps with not getting really lost with these little quirks, which is like you have to set number of frames for the video you are editing. So if you don't set it, then the video is kind of, like by default it's 250 frames. So it's kind of, if video is 60 frames per second, so you can imagine that it's like 3 seconds of video. No, I can't do math, it's more. but you know what I mean. So, but the main thing about Blender, which I was going really around, is that it's really smooth. The playback is just smooth. There's no stuttering, no weird shit. It just works, and it's so great. I believe I didn't have it even in Adobe Premiere. I had it stuttering every once in a while, but Blender, totally no issue. But already I discovered some little issues with Blender. So if you would want to use a green screen, or some animation or some effects with a green screen, then you're out of luck, because at least in the Blender's video editor you cannot really use chroma key to make green or blue into transparency, right? To do that, you have to actually make an go to the VFX view, and from there you can actually make it transparent. But then, at least for what I know, to actually get it into the video editor, you would have to export it first, and you will need to export it with a format that supports transparency in video, which is not really that easy. But I don't really use that. Maybe I will somehow figure this out. But I had something else on my mind. So the chroma key is kind of a problem. Oh yeah, the other kind of problem is that Blender is not rendering the video really. It's slower than Kdenlive, and I think I'm talking too loud, or because I see some weird things on the microphone, which is weird because usually I was talking too quiet. But we will see what happens in the editing. So Blender is nice, but actually the thing is, when you open Blender and you don't immediately click the video editor kind of menu item, then you will get lost forever in this interface. So yeah, but if you succeed in clicking it, then you will kind of find your way in it, I guess, if you know something about video editing. Of course, there are a few things you need to learn, but it's kind of easy, except what I said, the number of frames you need to set, and some other little options, but it's very nice in general. Another thing I wanted to talk about, but okay. So another thing, it's not really like a big subject, but maybe yeah, I wanted to say, maybe if you've seen the video, but the video I recorded before will probably be out after this podcast, so you won't see that, I guess, before this, or maybe you will. It's up to you. But I switched away from the Ubuntu rolling, which I was showing quite a while ago, and I haven't really been talking about it. Yes, at least not in the video, maybe, I'm not really sure now. I was talking about that I would probably be switching, but I switched to EndeavourOS, and I really like it here. I will for sure make a video talking more about the EndeavourOS, but in short, the i3 version of Endeavour is really solid base for making your kind of own configuration. Actually, if I haven't had already figured out some things what I actually want in my desktop environment, then the defaults from the Endeavor could be nice. But you know, the most of the things I've just changed to, you know, my way. But also I kept some things from Endeavor which were quite nice, and I'm not going to go into details now. But one bigger thing is that in the Endeavor, for the first time I've seen i3 bar looking actually decent, and I decided to just keep the i3 bar and get rid of polybar. But of course polybar has its advantages, I guess, over i3 bar, as at least with the way I'm configuring it, it would be easier to make some like transitions between elements if I want to make them in the other color, because with i3 bar I have i3 blocks and they kind of have to be in a given order for these little transitions I made to work. But that's a subject for a whole other video. But Endeavor, really cool. Also, as I was saying in the other video before, having Ubuntu rolling, I realized that I do so many things to make it work more like Arch. So then I could actually just use Arch, and I do, and it's pretty nice here. And yeah, I wanted to say I'm not planning to switch, because if I say something like that, I immediately think about changing it, so I'm not saying anything. Another thing, I have quite a list of subjects here, and I'm not sure if I should do all of them. And I don't really have, you know, fixed order. But okay, so another very interesting thing, I guess, for you. I've got a new keyboard. So it's a 60% keyboard. It doesn't have arrow keys, which I wanted, but it's also quite, at least it was quite annoying before I mapped some stuff here. I don't want to accidentally push something and like stop recording or whatever. But you can see it's also a Bluetooth keyboard, which isn't very good choice, I would say, if you have first a Linux system with grub, and also you have this full disk encryption, because you need to, you know, enter your passphrase, and you cannot really do it on a Bluetooth keyboard because, you know, no Bluetooth is active at this stage. Also in the login manager or display manager, whatever, Bluetooth keyboard also doesn't work. I believe maybe in GDM it would work, but it's not a big issue, just a little funny thing. Anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but one thing I really don't like about it is that I don't have the function keys row, so F1, F2, etc., which would be pretty nice, but I guess I already got used to it. And this actually leads to another topic. I mean, tiny little topic, let's say. I've seen Matt from Linuxcast kind of shouting out another small, quite smaller than Linuxcast at least, YouTube channel Budlabs. And I went there and to look to see what it's all about, and I've seen some quite lengthy videos, but I've seen one video which had, I guess, in the title something about 60% keyboard. So the first thing I thought was, oh, I just got just the same keyboard. I mean, not literally the same, but similar keyboard. So I went to watch this video, and I've seen something about mapping keys and stuff, which I actually also wanted to do. And also, thanks to Budlabs channel, I found a really cool program service, I guess. I mean, program, it runs as a service, but it's called KD or KeyD, and it's basically for mapping the keyboard. And thanks to this, I have my caps lock plus HJKL as arrows, which is really good, because otherwise I would need to hold the function key and press W, and then WASD would become arrows, which is pretty useless in everywhere but in a game, I guess, which usually would anyway have WASD as, directions. But before I found this, I was trying to use some other tool, xmodmap, which kind of worked, but every time my keyboard disconnected, for example, it went to sleep because it's, Bluetooth keyboard. It would forget these mappings, and also every key that was mapped like this, which is HJKL, couldn't be used with I don't know how to call this, L with Alt is a Polish EU character, and I couldn't use it. I mean, it just wouldn't type anything, so it was pretty annoying. I also have mapped some few other keys, and they also didn't work with it, and it was very annoying, and I needed to have these freaking arrows somehow. And KD or KD turned out to be just lifesaver here. So this discovery of this channel really kind of saved me a lot of headache. Of course, also, as I'm not having these arrow keys, I realized how much I needed these freaking arrows, and it was quite irritating at first getting used to this caps lock HJKL, but kind of got used to it already, that I'm using it even on a ThinkPad, which actually shares all the configuration with my main machine. So it also has these mappings, but it also has the arrow keys. But I anyway started using this HJKL. I don't know why I cannot say these letters without forgetting which what am I even saying? Which letters are there? That doesn't really make sense what I just said, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so that's for discoveries of channels, at least for this episode. Yeah. Also, I discovered a little thing which may be weird, because many YouTubers want, or I guess everyone wants to talk a little about themselves or what they are doing, which is usually not really interesting for others, especially if you are a channel with 10 subscribers or something. But anyway, when I started doing these Linux videos, I realized I no longer have a problem with, making too short a video, but the problem just kind of flipped around and the videos became too long, that I started to need to kind of control myself to just stop talking at some point, because it would be too long. And I guess maybe I had a bad approach before to all of this, because I was watching some YouTube videos and I had this idea for quite a while that I would also want to make some videos, but I couldn't really settle on one kind of idea for the videos, as you probably not really want to check the backlog of the videos, but they were kind of all over the place. I tried to be some drama channel, which I find very cringe right now, honestly. Also some gaming, maybe. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to go do some gaming content, because I kind of want it, but there's another problem, because as before I was very often making a gaming video, a let's play, when I haven't had a good idea for a video other than that. And now I kind of don't really have time to record gameplays, because I want to record other things which I want to talk about, and it's going great. I mean, I just like doing it. So of course it's not something very awesome or whatever, and I don't really think it is going to be, but it's kind of nice little hobby, I guess. As I had before, recording, playing a game was a excuse to play the game. Now recording a video is a very good excuse to try some like new desktop environments, new applications, and let's say, things that are not particularly useful to just do, because I already have kind of my stuff figured out, and looking for some and I don't really need to make a mess on my computer. That's why I use virtual machines, and kind of just I don't want to say waste time, but it kind of, it's not always very productive to just check these weird things. Of course, you learn every time you figure out some other applications and stuff, so you understand things better, but it's harder to me to convince myself that it was really something worth it, unless I make a video. I know it's very stupid as I'm saying this right now, but that's the way I kind of pick myself, right? Because of course, just playing a game for yourself is also that's okay, right? So instead of playing a game, I can play with some new window manager or whatever, and it's also fine. But if I could also make a video about it, super fine. So yeah, I'm looking at my notes, and what else? I cannot find the because I'm of course checking the things I've made, but I've of course used org mode in Vim, and it doesn't really work that well, I guess. I was actually thinking about switching to something else for a while. I was thinking about Task Warrior, but I'm not sure if it has really functional client for mobile. It would be also cool to have a kind of client inside of Vim, but that's not really a topic for today. I guess it works fine. Anyway, other thing I wanted to mention. Some people in the Linux community, I guess maybe it's in all communities or just in all over the internet, are just so fucking annoying. So I recently switched to Endeavour OS, and I'm not going to say anything bad about Endeavour OS community or whatever, because it's not the point. The point is, I use Alacrity, and every terminal emulator kind of has a environment variable which kind of tells other programs what it is, right? It's called literally term, if I'm not wrong. And I believe on Ubuntu, the build of Alacrity I have defaulted to setting this variable as xterm 256 colors, which is kind of, I guess, standard thing, or it's just for xterm, but I guess a lot of other terminals probably also use it. But here on Arch and Endeavour, Alacrity just identifies as Alacrity, and the grade was my bewilderment when I logged in to SSH server of our client, and everything was kind of shit, kind of messed up. Nothing was really working right in the terminal. Just it was all over the place, and I didn't know what is happening at first, but very quickly I realized that the server doesn't have term info of Alacrity, which tells the, I guess, I don't really know, so I don't want to explain it too much. It didn't know what Alacrity is and how to talk to it, so it was really weird. So I was looking for a solution for this, and I found a Stack Overflow or something like, oh, anyway, something from Stack Exchange, I'm not sure which site was it, about setting the term for Alacrity. And someone said that you just can set it in configuration, set literally the term variable to whatever you want. But usually you want this X term 246, 56 colors, 46. But someone commented under it that you shouldn't set that, you should set Alacrity because it is the correct value for Alacrity because it's Alacrity. And I don't know, very so often I feel like many of these people who say shit like this, they never worked a day in their life on the computer. They're just, I don't know, making some sick rices. They're doing everything in some obscure terminal applications. I'm not saying I'm not doing everything in obscure terminal applications, but I also do my work on my computer, and I need to log into SSH and have it just work. And I'm not going to go around to my boss or to admins of the client and say I need Alacrity term info because because I use Alacrity and Alacrity is the correct term value for Alacrity. No. And I don't know what kind of accent was it, but anyway. So that's a little example, but I've seen similar stuff multiple times, but it doesn't really bother me. I guess maybe it would bother me more if I would be going for more support here and there, but I guess most of the time I'm able to just find solutions that are already there. I guess it's kind of a perk of being a programmer that you know how to Google pretty much anything. And it leads us to, I guess, the last subject I'm going to talk about. The last topic, I should say, maybe, to talk about today, because I have too much. Usually I haven't have any topics or too little topics when doing a podcast, and now I have too many of them. I need to do where is it? Of course I could do it after the podcast because I would remember what I talked about, I believe. But anyway, I wondered for a moment why Ubuntu doesn't seem to, it would be wrong to say it doesn't seem to be popular. It is very popular, but also the community doesn't seem that big or that vocal. at least usually the community is vocal when it's about shitting on canonical more than anything. But I realized maybe the reason why that is because I keep saying that no, I switched back to Linux after not being on Linux, but honestly, for all these years, I mean, since I started working as a programmer, which is kind of 10 years now, if you guess. Oh jeez. I've been using Ubuntu for my work. It was always Ubuntu. I mean, now I'm using Endeavor for work as well, but I was using Ubuntu all the time. And I don't think I ever, at least when I switched from I guess for a really long time, even when I was using still some Linux distro, I mean on my private computer, I wasn't really that much into any community, I guess, especially when I was just using Ubuntu at work. I wasn't really into Linux community at all. I mean, I was just using it. I was sometimes googling some stuff, how to set something up, how to change something, but I wasn't really that much interested. It was kind of like, you know, you use Windows, you don't become a part of a Windows community or something, you just use it and whatever. And that was the case with Ubuntu for me, and maybe it's also the case for most of the Ubuntu users, which, you know, they just do their work there and that's that, which is of course in contrary the guys that are saying what to set as your term value because they never have been on an SSH server that isn't in their basement, I guess. So that's just a little thought about this. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like that to me. I mean, of course, there are a few vocal Ubuntu fanboys out there, of course, but it kind of like an exception in contrary to Arch Linux community because they are more vocal, you know, and usually you cannot really miss the fact that they are using Arch, by the way. So I'm thinking that I will be kind of, I guess I'll be wrapping this up for today. I have some little subjects here, or no, I will do another one because it's kind of fresh thing, and I guess I'm not gonna be doing a whole video about it because I'm not really kind of into news, into making news videos, I guess, maybe, I don't know. So recently there was this big thing about Fedora disabling support for some codecs. I mean, I really butchered it right now because there is the Mesa driver, Mesa library, or whatever. I really don't really know what I'm talking about, but anyway, there is a video codec, two video codecs. It's H200 something. I'm really prepared for the subject if you haven't spotted already. So anyway, they made some changes to the Mesa that it won't support hardware acceleration for these codecs which are used by AMD graphics because graphic cards, because Nvidia uses their own NVENC codec and AMD is using the other ones, which, as I now remember, I was also using it, I guess, in Adobe Premiere back then, even though I have Nvidia card. So it would be really not fine for AMD users because it might make some stuff not perform as good. And the thing why they did this is because they were afraid of some patent stuff, but you know, it was there for quite a while and no one was really interested in it, and they decided we will kind of draw attention of people who could have a problem with patents, with them using this codecs in the Mesa in their Mesa build, and yeah, so now it's really possible that maybe other distros will follow this. OpenSUSE already followed it, and it was like no one had problem with it, but Fedora developers decided, oh no, maybe someone can have a problem with it, so we will just fuck things up for the users, because who cares about users? Apparently not really Fedora devs. Maybe I'm too harsh here, but it's kind of like this. But it's of course not only Fedora's problem. I believe GNOME developers are similar in this, and no, Fedora, GNOME, Red Hat, it's all kind of interlinked, and it's kind of similar that they have their idea how something should be, and it should be like that, no matter what the users really need or want. I mean, GNOME is already becoming really better because they are actually implementing stuff that people wanted. And yeah, I was using GNOME 3 actually when it just came out. I had the Ubuntu version which used Unity, but I've installed GNOME shell on it, and it was it was kind of weird, because they wanted and they still want to have the things their way. Now some people get used to it. I've got used to it, and even though I'm not using it, I wouldn't mind, let's say, using it, because it just became more usable, I guess, over the time. So yeah, so Fedora devs decided we will announce that there might be this patent problem here to everyone, and maybe the problem will actually come. Of course, it's maybe not really a reason, because if they're really, but I don't know if they really needed to do that. Would they really have any major problems with it, other than they would actually need to remove this support from this Mesa build. I don't know. I already seen some weird things on Twitter with some dev talking to Glorious Eggroll, who is the maintainer of Proton GE, which is a kind of like newer version of Proton than Proton Experimental. It's just this really good version of Proton, okay? So he has his own distribution called Nobara, which is kind of Fedora, but without bullshit. So maybe it's a way to choose here. It's kind of, I feel like Nobara to Fedora is like Linux Mint to Ubuntu. So, but I guess Nobara is a little smaller project, but it's like that. So Fedora has their ways which are not really user friendly, which is weird because Fedora is now kind of like in the same place as Ubuntu was, so the popular, user friendly and stuff, but they have some weird issues that's very easy to fix, like having a same defaults, right? They are not forcing, they are using Flatpaks and they are promoting Flatpaks. They're recommending using Flatpaks for installing software, but does Fedora have FlatHub access, so to all the actual Flatpaks that anyone would need to have? No. You need to set this up yourself and from command line. So that's that. Anyway, I guess it would be everything for this episode of voidCAST. So thank you for watching or listening. I guess this podcast would be on Spotify, at least on Anchor. So if you liked it, then like the video, subscribe or follow on the streaming services, I guess. You can also find me on Twitter, on Mastodon. All the links will be in description. So that's that. Thank you and see you in the next one. Bye.